Paul, give us those names. Who's most at risk?
Hey, so Deirdre, so like within the technology space, among groups, software actually has one of the lower international revenue exposures versus some of the other major groups like semiconductors and tech hardware. Admittedly, Microsoft gets about half of its revenues outside of the U.S., so that's on the higher side of the software sector. But companies like Oracle, Autodesk get 55–60% of their revenues outside the U.S. So within the sector, tech, like you said in the lead-in, has one of the most exposed sectors as far as international revenues are concerned. So semis, again, have very high exposure. Within software, there's other, stocks that will be outliers. You have Intuit and Paycom, which generate less than half of their sales outside the U.S. So, you got to take it on a company-by-company basis here. And again, what you were saying about Microsoft, and this isn't necessarily all new news. We've been talking about it in conference calls. We've heard this commentary go through in call after call. It has accelerated to a degree, but investors should be aware of this and the moves in the dollar as it happens. And as the dollar goes up, it may hurt them, but as the dollar goes down, that's something to look forward to on the other end.
Right. There's always the flip side, and the market seems to be somewhat taking this in stride. But, Paul, some of those other names that are more exposed that you mentioned, like Oracle, Autodesk, some semi names, what is their ability to deal with these headwinds? We talked about how Microsoft, has experience here, and they're very large companies, so they do have some leeway here. But what about the others?
Well, these are all large cap companies. Admittedly, if you're a U.S. company and you have, exposure all over the world, you're a large cap company. You can tend to and attempt to hedge these risks in your business. It's what we saw in the first half of this year, and the move in the dollar is really extreme. And so what you're seeing is most companies haven't been able to completely hedge these moves. You heard Mark Benioff talk about the sales force and what's been going on with the Japanese yen is unlike anything he's ever seen. So, there's only so much you can do to try and prepare for these things. And even the biggest companies, it impacts them. So it's just something you have to take with, as it comes. And to, what we were just talking, what John was saying in the lead-in, FX is just one thing going on with these companies and this market now. It's not this, it's that. And if it's not that, it's this. So every day we seem to be looking at and faced with a new problem to get the headlines and stuff. But as
Paul, to what extent should investors digest this Microsoft tweak on FX and consider more things? Because looking at the other big tech stocks right now, Apple's about flat in the morning's trade. Microsoft is now down less than 2%. Everything else is green. Right? Like just about everything else is green. I got to go down to, Cisco. Cisco's about flat. But aside from that, larger tech is having a pretty good morning so far.
Right. And I think, if you were coming into today holding Microsoft, unless there was, it was like hanging by a thread in your portfolio and you were trying to decide whether or not to buy or sell it, this news shouldn't be the type of news that's going to cause you to completely change your outlook on the company. So again, we've seen the dollar really surge over the last several months here. So if you're looking at this news from Microsoft today and suddenly you have a revelation that the strong dollar is going to hurt these tech companies, you probably should be having someone else doing the investments for you.